What is peace and conflict studies? Peace and conflict studies is an academic discipline of social science that analyzes and teaches the conditions and values of peace, factors of conflict, issues of security, mechanisms of conflict resolution, and ways of conflict transformation in the pursuit of making peace possible. Peace and conflict studies is an interdisciplinary effort aiming at the prevention, de escalation, and resolution of conflicts by peaceful means, thereby seeking victory for all parties involved in the conflict. As an academic discipline, peace and conflict studies has evolved to the current stage gradually from pacifist philosophy, that is, war is bad and devastating, peace is good and a social complex goal which is possible to achieve. Peace and conflict studies is contrast to military studies, which has its aim on the efficient attainment of victory in conflicts primarily by violent means. Satisfaction of one or more but not all parties involved in the conflict. The underlying philosophy of peace and the origins of the discipline of peace and conflict studies are very closely attached with morality, religion, normative values and pacifism, ethical practices. Peace studies can be classified as multidisciplinary, encompassing elements of politics and international relations, religion, sociology, psychology, anthropology, geography, economics, and history. Critical theory is also widely used in peace and conflict studies. Peace studies can be classified as multi-level, from intrapersonal peace to peace between individuals, neighbors, ethnic groups, states, and civilizations. It is multicultural. Gandhi is often cited as a paradigm of peace studies. However, true multiculturalism remains an aspiration as most peace study centers are located in the West. Peace studies is both analytic and normative. As a normative discipline, peace studies involves value judgment, such as better and bad. It is both theoretical and applied. There has been a long standing and vibrant debate on disarmament issues. It attempts to investigate, catalog, and analyze issues relating to arms production, trade, and their political impacts. It attempts to map the economic cost of war or of relapses into violence as opposed to those of peace. Evolution of peace and conflict studies. Contemporary foundation for academic study of peace and conflict studies were laid in the 1950s and 1960s, partly because of the impact of World War I and World War II, incalculable destruction, and the threats posed by Cold War. As a reaction to that history and dangers, many social scientists began to feel that systematic and careful research is needed to be carried out not just on the topics and threats such as arms race, the psychology of charismatic leaders, or the manipulation of power, but on the whole process by which conflict arose, become coercive and destructive, or might be resolved without resort to violence. It was the time when peace research theoretically moved from the idealistic normative rhetoric to empirical and factual analysis that focuses on social science positivism. Subject matter of peace and conflict studies during Cold War. The focus of peace research and Cold War was on subjects such as arms race, disarmament, conflict and conflict theory, conflict resolution, dependency and developmental issues. Subject matter in post Cold War time. After Cold War, to meet the challenges of contemporary world, the peace and conflict studies enhanced and broadened its subject matters. It shifted the focus from international conflict towards complex issues related to non-traditional security, human security, non-state actors, terrorism, clash of civilizations, political violence, insurgencies, environment, democratization, human rights, social justice, welfare, and development. With the proliferation of international organizations, agencies, and international NGOs. Aims and objectives of peace and conflict studies. As an academic discipline, this subject adheres to some basic principles to maintain its own standards which clearly distinguish it from other disciplines. The principles of peace and conflict studies are to maintain the rules of sound pedagogy, to exercise interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approaches of education, to focus more on civil society rather than policy experts, to focus more on nonviolent approaches of conflict management rather than coercive approaches, to emphasize values, morality, justice, and world community, to reform and transform existing structure in order to sustain peace. Overall objective is neither limited nor narrow focused. David Dunn and Pedro Bernaldes stated that as a whole, the objective of peace studies is to distill and spread the knowledge of peace research to wider community in order to better understand peace and conflict issues in different and varied forms with certain values within a particular process and try to influence policy making process successfully.